Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I am Blake Harrison and joining me as ever is Stuart Whiffin. How are you, mate?
I'm all right. You all right?
Whiffin. Yeah, very good. Very good.
Glad you could make it.
Yeah, I had some technical difficulties. And by technical difficulties, I mean, there was some technical difficulties. Then I just really needed a poo and it wasn't a clean break. So, you know, there was a big cleanup needed. So, you know, it's just how it goes. You know, it's life.
Yeah. And then you went to the wrong event, didn't you? You
Yeah.
looked back into our little Zoom event for UFC Paris.
In a panic, I was in the waiting room of our MMA post-Paris chat. So, you know, quality all round from me, really.
Oh, it must be good for you. I'll take it that the kids are back to school. Is normality resuming for you?
The kids went back to school today. I'm very aware of the fact that there's this huge bright light just shining in my face right now. So I'm going to shut those. I've gone full Casper, so I'm going to shut those blinds up in a second. But yeah, the kids went back to school today. They've gone back a little bit later. I think it was like inset day or whatever. I don't know what the teachers do. They just have one day where they go in and probably have a few drinks together and be like, "Oh, school would be great without the kids, wouldn't it? We'll just get lagging." That's probably what they're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, let's hope they don't listen to this.
Yeah, well, who cares? What are you gonna do? Yeah, so they're back today, all good. So yeah, it's that thing. I don't like when there's a big. Me and my wife talking about this. This is so not MMA related, what I'm about to say. But there's a big culture at the moment, I think, of like, to be a cool parent, you have to be like, oh, I can't wait till the kids get back to school. Oh, yeah. Oh, the kids, I can't wait to get them out from under my feet. Oh, fucking kids, or whatever it is. It's like, I love the summer holidays. I love that. Don't get me wrong. I could do without the early mornings quite so much.
But, but then you have the early mornings. The nannies have got them in a different part of Harrison's house.
How fucking dare you? No, like my son will get in with us anytime from like 6ish. But at least when we're on the summer holidays, we can sort of try and convince him to go back to sleep. Yeah. But when it's like school runs coming up and stuff, like you are like, well, we're going to be up in a little bit anyway to start school. But basically, my point is, I quite like having them around a lot. Like I don't know. I don't think it's good to be constantly like, oh, fucking kids. Oh, can't wait for them to go back to school, especially if they're in earshot. Yeah. You imagine that. Like, imagine like the person that you like love the most in the world makes you feel the most protected. Turns around and says, I wish you'd get lost. It's like when I'm out with you on a night out and you're like, oh, I wish Blake would go away. It hurts. Stu. It hurts my feelings.
I need to say it internally. I can't believe you're hearing what I'm saying in my own head. That's worrying.
Yeah. You're getting to the age now where what you think is in your head's just coming out your mouth.
I'll tell you what, what's scarier than Izzy or Sean Strickland, and I don't know where you're at. Obviously, I'm out of the woods now. My kids have both left school, and but there was a school gate mafia when I was there. Like just a firm of mums that were like they were like the mean girls. They was like the firm that run the school gate. And that was pretty terrifying. Like, how do you navigate around that, being that bloke off the telly?
Oh, I don't hang around, mate. I'm like at the gate, like the pickup. Obviously, you got to do a little bit more, but I'm timing like right. That door is opening in T minus 25 seconds. Boom. Then I'm getting out of the car, and then I'm there, and then I'm doing pit. So, but there's like some. I wouldn't say there's like. There is a little clique of mums. Yeah, there's a little clique of mums. But I just say my hellos. I'm polite. I'll get involved with the old conversation every now and again. Mm-hmm. But I'm not on any of the...
I can't wait to read back to bloody school. Get them out from under my feet.
I know. The thing is, I mean, there probably will be those people, and I'll just smile and nod and be like, yeah, sure. Because I don't want to be like, you're a terrible parent because you're saying that. I'm just like, firstly, you probably... Yeah, I don't have the energy for that conversation. I don't want to waste my time. Like, yeah, God, yeah, know what you mean. Right, kids, let's go.
I was the opposite. I wanted to be in with the mean girls. I'd try I'd try and get in with them, but it just weren't happening. It really weren't. I'd always sort of like try and pick like the weakest one and just think, right, I reckon I could get in via this one. But nah.
She was like a bit sweeter. Gave you a little smile when you're like, oh, I could spark up a conversation. God, what about so-and-so and the science homework, eh? And then the others just walk along and are like, why are you talking to our friend?
Exactly
Keep away from us.
Exactly that. I tried for a good 10 years to break down the school gate mafia, but never got in. Never got in. Anyway, let's talk about this upcoming event this Saturday. UFC 293, Izzy versus Strickland. Let's start at the top. I mean, actually, before we start breaking down the fights, I've gone through the card this morning again.
Keep talking. I'm shutting those blinds.
Okay, no worries. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but it's not the greatest card. And obviously, we're seeing Izzy fight Sean Strickland. We'll break that down, I'm sure, in a moment. But is it the most exciting fight for Izzy? Maybe. But I think there's other fights we'd all like to see, which we will get onto. But apart from that, you then look at the co-main, which is Volkov and Tuivasa, which has every, it will be a fan favourite fight because Ty's fun. Mm-hmm. But when you look down on it and you're looking at that card and where it is, it's missing Dan Hooker. It's missing Bobby Knuckles. It's missing Volk. I think even if we would have had a Bobby Knuckles on that card or something else as a co-main, I think it would have really rocketed that card because I think it's not that great.
I would agree with you. I don't think it's a great card. It's very, I say, it's sort of that kind of like Australasia heavy, but without a lot of the big hitters outside of Adesanya, and obviously you'd probably include Ty in that as well. But you're right. If they'd have delayed the Dricus Duplessis Robert Whittaker fight to this card, but then people would have been saying, well, it should have been Dricus in the main event. This is a complicated one because also I have to point out I think they've booked a sort of baddish card here, but they haven't been helped, and it's not their fault, the UFC matchmakers, that say Manel Kape was supposed to fight Kai Kara France.
Yeah.
That would have been a much better fight and much more interesting. Kai's got injured. Those things happen. Like, you can't help that. But overall, had they have had Robert Whittaker on the card or something like that, that would have really helped things along. Or even just, get a Hamzat Chimaev on the card. I mean, God knows what he's doing at the moment, Hamzat and all that. But
he's fighting Costa, isn't he?
Oh, he is. Yes, he is. When is that?
294.
294. Well, do it this one, 293. But yeah, so it's not, it's not great. It hasn't been helped by Kai Kara France having to pull out, and I think that would have helped things a bit. But yeah, it just doesn't read great. I mean, when you're looking at the main card and you're going Cap versus Felipe dos Santos, who he's making his debut.
Right.
Taffa versus Austin Lane, which is a rematch of that weird eye poke fight from a while ago, but neither of them are big main card fighters on a pay-per-view event. Tyson Pedro versus Anton Turkalj, who I don't know very well, and Tyson Pedro obviously coming off that loss, I think,
Modestus.
To Modestus, yeah. So, this is, I think, one of the worst pay-per-view cards I have seen since we've been doing this podcast. Whether my memory's not good enough to say it's definitively the worst, but it's one of the worst.
You are going in on this card as hard as I went in on Rhodes. This is
what? No, what? Like, where? Like, am I wrong?
Like, no, you're not. You're absolutely right. You ain't getting up early for this one.
Because even the main event, the star power of Israel Adesanya should be enough to carry it over. I just don't give a fuck about him fighting Sean Strickland. I just don't.
Well,
There's nothing in that fight that interests me, really.
Let's talk about this fight because, I mean, obviously, I do want to shout out that every time I have heard Izzy refer to Dricus, he keeps calling him Dickless, which I really can't stop sniggering at. And and, and I see that Izzy said like, and he says something along the lines of like, look, Dickless, like it's down to me who I fight when I fight. I'm going to see what happens with Costa and Hamzat. Then I might decide who I'll fight, and I don't even know if you're going to feature in that. And it's like it's just timing because it's easy and it's fight week. He's probably a bit ratty, and he's also trying to hype this weekend's fights.
I don't think the UFC will do that. I think the Drickus fight, particularly with Izzy getting in the cage after the Bobby Knuckles fight, I'm like, that's happening next. If Hamzat absolutely destroys Costa in like the first round or whatever of their fight, then sure, you've got a situation there where maybe they can play them two off against each other. And Adesanya versus Hamzat would be a huge fight. But I just think it'd be crazy not to do the Drickus fight after everything that's gone down. But hey, I don't know if Adesanya is an active fighter. If Hamzat destroys Costa and then could fight again in, I don't know, December, January, anything like that, and Adesanya's up for that quick turnaround, maybe you do have a situation where Drickus is like, oh no, this hasn't gone well. And they're booking Adesanya Hamzat.
Ridiculous scenario.
Go on.
Sean Strickland knocks out Izzy.
I mean, it'd be fucking mental.
I mean, it would be mental.
It'd be absolutely mental. But sure, let's say there's a world where that happens.
Right. And it would be nuts. And I don't want to see that happen because I think he's a tit, an absolute tit. And like, anytime he opens his mouth, it just makes me cringe. And I don't even think he's turning that on for the press. I do think he's that guy, and I'm not a fan. And I can't in a million years see him stopping Izzy. But this is MMA. He's got heavy hands and he's a good striker. It could happen. So say that happens.
Mm-hmm.
What does that do to the whole of that sort of top five and potential fights?
Well, I'd imagine Adesanya gets an immediate rematch. Again, my thing is, if you defend your belt 3 times, then you can get an immediate rematch.
Okay.
But technically, Adesanya, this is his first title defense since beating Ferreira.
Of course.
So, it's a bit of a weird one. But I think Izzy is the biggest star. He's one of the biggest stars in the entirety of the UFC. Maybe he's the biggest. I mean, I think Sean O'Malley is probably going to be fast on his heels. John Jones is obviously a huge, huge deal. But does Izzy have slightly more crossover appeal, particularly with a younger audience? I don't know. I mean, I'm taking Conor out of the equation because Conor is Conor, and I'm taking Conor out of the equation. But yeah, Izzy is top 5 for sure, biggest stars in the UFC, including Conor. He's in the top 5. Conor obviously being number 1. So I think they'd be crazy not to give him an immediate rematch, just because that's what will do the biggest numbers, and that'll be probably the most interesting story. But for the rest of the top 5, yeah, Drickus is then going, what do I do? Does he just keep waiting around? Because again, Izzy is an active fighter. He will want to get back in there quick. So does Drickus just wait around and hope Izzy wins again and gets in touch? Or do you have to do Drickus versus Hamzat if Hamzat beats Costa, or Costa if Costa beats Hamzat, which I imagine Hamzat would win that fight. But yeah, that might really shake up the division for sure. But this is but I mean, look, we had Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes in that first fight, and everyone was going, there is no way Pena beats Nunes. And look what happened. So yeah. I'm not expecting any kind of shocking result. Like sometimes you're like, look, if a shock happens, it'll be shocking, but I won't be totally surprised by it. If this happens, if Strickland were to beat Adesanya, whether it be via wrestling, knockout, decision, any of those things, I would be shocked. I would be there with like my head in my hands going, how? How has that happened? There's no world in which Strickland possesses anything that I've ever seen that should give Adesanya problems, which is another reason why I'm like, the main event of this card is just meh for me. Just meh.
I think I don't even know if he's a fan favourite, Strickland, but he talks so much shit. I think he's shit that it grabs headlines.
Yes.
And it's very, very marketable, in a bad way a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's it reaches out to an element of the of the fight fan community that I don't necessarily think is the most kind of open-minded and progressive. And I think a lot of what he says probably excites those people.
Yep.
And I'm just not on board with it. And nothing's going to make me more happy than seeing Izzy standing over Sean Strickland on Saturday, firing arrows at him. I can't wait to see that.
Well, he said he's going to do a TikTok dance over him.
Oh, really?
So that'll be fun. Mix it up a bit, a little TikTok dance. I mean, look, we've both made our points about Strickland, even on other episodes of this podcast, very clear that like we think what he says is a load of nonsense and we're not fans of his personally. But as a fighter, even if we're looking at that, he's only won 3 of his last 5. 2 wins recently over Abus, is it Magomedov? I might be getting that wrong. But he, Abus Magomedov, who's not ranked. He's an unranked fighter at the moment, Abus. And Imavov, who's ranked 12th. So out of his last 5 fights, he's lost 3 and got 2 wins over people that are outside of the top 10. One of them is outside of the top 15.
He's a lucky boy.
That should not get you a title shot. That shouldn't get you a title shot. And I don't want to delve back into it, but it just shows you there is a reward system for people saying dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And it's, one of the sad things about the sport, I think. But also we look at the... Go on, sorry.
Just on Strickland, how long do you think he's been in the UFC?
Oh, mate, I don't know. In my head, he's been around for a while.
9 years, Blake.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me too much.
I couldn't believe that. I literally thought he'd been in the UFC maybe 5 years. Like 9 years. A long time. And and you look at his record and it's quite uninspiring. And like you say, coming off of 2 wins against people that aren't, highly ranked, and you look at what Drickus has been doing, and you look at what other people in that division have been doing, it feels a bit weird that he's fast-tracked to that. And
it does. I mean, but you mentioned that, and that's the reason this fight is happening, isn't it? It was, I believe, a scheduling error on part of the UFC. They had this huge pay-per-view event in Australia that they were always going to have Israel Adesanya as the headline of. It was just, who does he fight? And what they did was 6 weeks ago, they had Robert Whittaker versus Dricus du Plessis, and they were thinking the winner of that fight will get the title shot. And it was like, mate, you can't be like, have a fight that could go 3 rounds, whatever it is, could be a war, and say in 6 weeks' time, then you're fighting for the belt. Obviously, Drickus is like, no, I'm not ready. And I don't blame him. Like, Drickus has said some stuff that I'm not a big fan of as well. But like, from a sporting point of view, if you are fighting a guy that everyone thinks you're going to lose to, fighting a guy that is the, without a doubt, number 1 ranked middleweight in the world, obviously underneath the champion, as if you're going to be ready 6 weeks later than that to then go and fight the champion, who again is a slightly different style. I know they're both great strikers, Whittaker and Adesanya, but very different body types, all those things. Like, that's just really hard. And it seemed like really bad scheduling to do that. And now we're in a situation where when you look at the rankings, again, outside of the scheduling, you can understand why the UFC have done this. Because when we scroll down those middleweight rankings, Drickus is now number 1, but he's said he wasn't ready. Robert Whittaker is number 2. He's just lost to Drickus, and he's lost to Adesanya twice. Cannonier has lost to Adesanya. Vettori has lost to Adesanya twice. And then you wind up at Sean Strickland. Underneath that, Costa has lost to Adesanya in devastating fashion, and he's now booked to fight Hamzat. Derek Brunson has lost to Adesanya and hasn't looked great recently. Then there's Roman Dolidze. He doesn't earn a title. He hasn't earned a title shot. I think he lost to Vittori in London, didn't he? And I can't remember what he's done since then. Jack Hermanson.
Tight fight, man.
Yeah, it was a tight fight, but you can't give him a title shot.
Sure.
Jack Hermanson, I don't believe has looked great. I haven't got his record in front of me, but then you go down to Brendan Allen, who's looked really good lately, and is fighting Paul Craig. And I think Paul Craig's first main event coming up soon.
Well, Paul Craig wanted Sean Strickland, didn't he? When for his middleweight debut, he wanted Sean Strickland. He thinks that's a great matchup. I agree, that's a great matchup for Paul Craig.
I agree. But basically, my point being, who else was there?
You're right.
Strickland is fifth. And he has at least had a win recently. So this is a situation we're in. Adesanya is cleaning out that division.
Yeah. And if Dricker's ain't back, unfortunately, the next stop happens to be Sean Strickland. Yeah,
what can you do? So look, I'm moaning about the matchmaking, and I think rightfully so in terms of the Drickus versus Robert Whittaker fight. But when we're now at the situation we're in, there was no one other than Strickland. So I get it. I just have no massive interest in it. And I mean, even from a kind of game planning point of view, let's look back at Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira, when apparently, is it Eric Nixick, his coach and stuff, was saying, wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. And he just went in there and went, I'm just going to kickbox this ridiculously, hugely powered elite kickboxer, and he got sparked in seconds. Like, is he going to just have another terrible game planning moment?
Have you seen what he said yesterday, Strickland?
Remind me.
Right, let's let me see if I can pull it up. I think he said something along the lines of, I've been wrestling, but you know what it's like when the buzzer goes, I'll start throwing punches, probably get a bit hard, and then continue striking.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's just who he is.
Sean Strickland, ladies and gentlemen.
There's a part of me that even thinks he knows he can't win this fight, so he's just going to go out there and either do a sort of wannabe Korean zombie thing and just go out on his shield early, just so he can go, I fought him like a man. I was just, I just went out there and I just wanted to fight him. Fuck that. I don't want to be like some wrestling, whatever the fuck he's saying.
Quite a good impression, that, mate.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks. I've been working on it. So Adesanya wise, all right, let's pose this question to you. If Adesanya doesn't get a finish or doesn't, in style, dispatch of Sean Strickland, does it make us think less of Adesanya, given how much everyone thinks he should be able to just destroy Strickland?
Well, when you look at what his biggest foe Pereira done to Strickland, he's got to knock him out, or he's got to finish him pretty quickly, I think. I don't think if it goes for a 5-round war, Izzy comes out that looking good. I think it's like, you should just get rid of him. And if he doesn't, then I don't think it's a good look for Izzy, but I don't think it will get in the way, and that performance will soon be forgotten when the hype machine starts to go to work on the Douglas fight, because I think there's beef there. It's marketable, and I don't know where that fight's going to happen. If it happens in Africa, like huge, like absolutely huge. And I think the marketing machine of the UFC eradicates what happened in a Strickland fight. If it was an average fight at best, I think it's onwards and to the next thing. And people's, generally fight fans' memories are quick to sort of park up stuff like that and get excited for the next fight. So I don't think, if it goes 5 rounds, it's a boring decision. I don't think it does him a huge disservice. Obviously, no one wants to see it, but I don't think it's going to be that dramatic.
Because it wasn't long ago that people were saying, God, he's been so boring. Is the 2 Alex Pereira fights of, one in back, everyone's like, Adesanya. But prior to that, with the Vittoris and the Cannoniers and the Romeros and boring fights, if he puts on a 50-45 display here, but it's boring, he takes no risks whatsoever, And Strickland is, I mean, to be fair, I think Strickland, the type of guy, the way he comes forward, I think he will get clipped. But let's just say Strickland decides to be safe for once. And it's an incredibly boring fight, but he 45s him in a really boring way. I think people will have a few things to say about it. I don't think people will be happy.
In regards to superstardom, I think a poor performance will see his stock drop below the big sort of ascending stardom of Sugar Sean. I think he's going to become the superstar of the division, and behind obviously McGregor, if we ever see McGregor fight again. But I do think that you mentioned that Izzy appeals to a younger audience. I think Sugar Sean's got that tied up, and I think he looks more exciting. And look at his fights; they're more exciting. Look what he's just done. Ridiculous. Yes, Izzy's last fight against Pereira was a spectacular finish. But yeah, I do think your casual fan, if it's another boring decision, your casual fan will just be like, oh, God, O'Malley's fine, wicked. Like that, there's always fireworks there. So, maybe a casual fan might lose a bit of interest in him, but like I say, if the Dickless fight, the wheels start turning on that, it's all forgotten.
Brilliant. Well, shall we move on to Tuivasa Volkov?
Yes. So
because this could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun. I mean, obviously, so Volkov's on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Rosenstrike and Romanov. Obviously, after he's lost to Tom. And he's been looking decent. I mean, Volkov's record's really impressive, and I think I've not got Ty's record in front of me at the moment, but I know.
Well, I think he's lost his last two.
Gone, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's lost his last two. Before that, I think he was like smashing up people like Derek Lewis and stuff in those crazy fights where he went on a bit of a really good run, actually.
And I think they both have, and so I think this is quite a good fight. I think whenever you see Ty fight, it's fun because he's like Big Country. He'll go down on his sword and he'll go down throwing, and his game. Yeah, crowd love him. I'm sure that arena's going to go insane when he walks out because fans love him. I love him. I think he's great to watch. Win, lose or draw. When he lost to Garn, I just love the fact that they were even as he was getting teed off on, he was sort of smiling at him and congratulating him on the shots that were just smashing him up. I do think he's just a great character in the UFC. I'm being at the press day and seeing Volkov chat, and that seems like just a really nice fella as well. And so I think this promises to be a pretty exciting matchup.
Yeah, I think so. I think the closest thing we've kind of seen to this for one of these guys would have been Volkov versus Derek Lewis. And Volkov was winning that fight for like 4 rounds and 4 minutes. And then Derek Lewis in the last minute of that fight just caught him with an absolute peach of a right hand. And Volkov crumbled, and Derek Lewis won a fight that he had been really losing. And that could happen. I mean,
that completely could happen again.
That completely could happen. I mean, the thing is, Volkov's that bit older now, maybe that little bit slower now. Tai Tuivasa, you could argue, is a younger, maybe slightly more athletic version of Derek Lewis, particularly given the age gap and the fact that Tai beat
I'm
Derek.
I'm glad you put Derek Lewis on the end of that sentence, because when you started talking about the athleticism of Tai Tuivasa, I was thinking, against who?
Well, maybe not so much against the Derek Lewis that we saw with a 6-pack recently, but traditionally, Tai having the win over Derek Lewis is probably a younger, faster version of Derek Lewis, the Derek Lewis that caught Alexander Volkov. Sure. But the thing is, this is a 3-round fight, not a 5-round fight. So Volkov only needs to stay safe for 3 rounds. So it's going to be interesting. What does Tai do? Does he hit some of those leg kicks? He's got underrated leg kicks, Tai Tuivasa. Does he hit some of those leg kicks on Volkov's kind of skinnier, longer legs, try and take that away from him and play a longer game? Or does he just go, do you know what? The best thing for me to do is a brawl, because Volkov is technically... Technically, Volkov is very good, ex-Bellator champion. It's very, very good heavyweight, technically good boxer and kickboxer. Can use his length really, really well, can use those teep kicks well. which we saw really damage Tai Tuivasa in the Garn fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if attacking the body is something Volkov really wants to do here. But
I forgot about
if
that.
you, yeah, that was
God.
bad to watch. And even Ty had a moment with that where he was at first he thought a shot was low. Mark Goddard was like, no, carry on, it wasn't low. And then Ty Tuivasa was just jiggling his own belly, being like, oh, look, it's making everything wobble. And Mark's like, yes, I know, keep fighting. I know your belly's jiggling. So yeah, I want to see Ty win because I love Ty. I mean, if he's walking down to the octagon to like Barbie Girl, Celine Dion, whatever it is he chooses this time, that's always good fun. I love that he doesn't take it too seriously. Big Ty Tuivasa fan. Let him get on the top of the cage and have a shoey at the end of it. But Volkov is no joke. Volkov is a really, really good fighter. And if he can keep moving a little bit and stay away from the brawl, keep Ty at arm's length, then I can see him winning this fight. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens there. Again, there's just not much else on the card, I don't feel like. Cap versus Felipe dos Santos. As we said, Cap on a 3-fight win streak. Santos making his debut. Could this go the same way that Uzdemir Guskov went Saturday just gone in Paris? You've got a guy making his debut, taking on a guy in the top 10. Yes, it's an amazing opportunity for the guy making a debut. For them to go, oh my God, I'm jumping into my UFC debut, and if I get a win, I'm immediately in the top 10. That's a phenomenal position to be in. A lot of people dream of that. I don't know if it's pressure, because I think all the pressure is going to be on the other guy, surely. I don't think it's pressure. I think it's opportunity, but there are levels to this. There's levels, and you saw that with Uzdemir Guskov at the weekend. It looked like a guy making his debut against a guy that was top 10 in the world. There's only one way that fight's going to go. Sure. And Cap being on a 3-fight win streak, you'd be crazy to bet on or imagine that Santos is gonna win this fight. But you know, stranger things have happened.
Blood Diamonds on the undercard. I mean, obviously there was lots of hype about him coming to the UFC. 2-fight losing streak. This could be shit off us for him. I think. I think another loss, and we're probably seeing the back end of Blood Diamond and off to another organisation. I'm presuming. We mentioned Tyson Pedro on the undercard, obviously coming back after the loss to Modestas at 204.
Carlos Olberg looks good.
Yes,
Carlos Olberg he's fighting a guy on a 2-fight losing streak, and I do feel like the UFC are maybe looking at Carlos Olberg as someone that could be beneficial for them going forward. You know, a guy that, you know, he looks really good. He's got a fun fight style. I'm just going to try and pull up his record now just to see what recently has been going on with him. But I think he has done really, really well of late, and has looked really good. And so I think, let me just put him up here. Yeah, so he's 8-1. Obviously, a teammate of Israel Adesanya's over at City Kickboxing. Lost his UFC debut to Kennedy Nzechukwu, who, you know, is a good fighter that's been around for a while now, done well. And then he's on a 4-fight win streak with 3 first-round finishes in his last 3 fights. I mean, that's pretty good going. I'd imagine that the UFC are seeing him as someone that they can hopefully promote more going forward. But again, he's only had 9 fights. He's going into his 10th fight, but he's fighting a guy that has lost his last 2. So maybe they're kind of doing a slow roll thing with him, but very, very good fighter. And the light heavyweight division isn't the most stacked division in the world. So if he wins in good fashion, that would make it would be a 5-fight win streak. If he gets another finish, that'd be 4 finishes on the bounce. You might be looking to move him into a ranked position after that. He has looked very, very good, Carlos Olberg. And I believe his nickname is down here as Black Jag, Carlos Olberg. But I believe back in the day, maybe when he was more on the regional scene, his nickname was Ladies Night, because he's just a very attractive man and the ladies love him. So that's quite a fun nickname as well.
Oh, I'd never have a nickname like that. I love a nickname like that. You know, Stu, Ladies Night.
Ladies Night.
They can't get enough of him, can they?
Stu, Ladies Night Whiffing. Oh man, down
Well,
the
look,
bingo hall.
we've been, we've been a little harsh on the card. The card's not the most exciting of cards, but look, there's a lot of Aussies on that card, and so I'm imagining the roar of that crowd when they walk in is going to bring, hopefully, a lot of fireworks. So when we do the post-fight show, I'm hoping that this throws up some absolute corking fights that maybe we're not expecting. So fingers crossed, we get a big night of fireworks. We see Izzy do a real number on Sean Strickland. And I'd like to see a Tai Tuivasa, as you said, on the top of that cage, shoe in his hand, guzzling a cold one, and yeah. So fingers crossed we get a really good turnout and scraps on what is a little bit of a muted card. Well, look,
absolutely. I mean, well, no, I was just going to say there's nothing else to really say about that card, but in terms of this being not a very good pay-per-view event, I don't know if next week we might want to talk about this in a bit more depth. But the following week's card is, I'm just trying to pull it up here, is Grasso Shevchenko 2. It's not a pay-per-view event, but there is a belt on the line. It's that, is it Mexican Independence Day card? So they're obviously having Grasso defend her belt against Valentina in the rematch. Undercard of that is Kevin Holland versus Jack Della Maddalena. Who could have been on this card? Jack Della in Australia. That's a weird booking for me. Put Jack Della in Australia, for goodness sake. And then you've got Daniel Rodriguez, who got head kicked by Ian Gary a little while ago, against Santiago Ponzinibbio, which should be a fun fight as well. Like, again, it is a fight night card. It's not a pay-per-view event. But there's fights on this card that had they moved some of these onto the Australia card, if they had a co-main event of Grasso versus Shevchenko rematch, add Jack Della Maddalena on the card against Kevin Holland, you've all of a sudden got a really decent pay-per-view card, I think. Mm-hmm. But they haven't. But what it does mean is you've got a fight night the week after that has got the return of Raul Rosas Jr. after he was hyped up so much and then he lost his most recent fight. You know, there's a few decent little fights on this card. So you've got something to look forward to with a fight night coming up. Again, it's not in comparison to 290, 291, 292. We've been spoiled for pay-per-views recently. Really, but the fight night card next week, there's a belt on the line, which is unique for a fight night card. And there's a couple of other decent fights on that card as well. So that could be something to look forward to as well.
Absolutely. And one person that's always featuring in the fights is Bruce Buffer. We've had a fantastic chat with Bruce. We met up with him when he was over for UFC London, and we filmed it in a really nice studio. So if you've not ever gone and checked us out on YouTube, then head over and make that your first stop, because it's an amazing chat with Bruce, who's obviously got stories for days, and we really go in on some of those with him. And he's just such a lovely fellow. We had such a great day hanging out and chatting with him. And so go check out that. And also, if you're big fans of Aussie fighters, then in our back catalogue, you can go and listen to us. We've had Alexander Volkanovski on twice now, and I'd like to say he's a friend of the show now. And we've had Dan Hooker on, so we've had some great Aussie fighters on, and that's without.
I don't know if it's okay to call Dan Hooker an Aussie, mate.
Sorry, Kiwi. Sorry, gosh,
man, you're going to get all the New Zealanders coming for you now. That is it,
mate. They heard me.
Don't know about ladies' night, but the Kiwi's going to be all over you, mate.
Mate, I was giving it some fighting talk on the last episode, mate. They'll all be thinking twice, mate. Like, I want a little bit of me in a pub car park, mate. I tell you, I'm ready for them. Right, okay, we're back next time. In the meantime, like I say, go check out that back catalogue, and why not subscribe and like, share, retweet, all of that stuff. And I think that's all she wrote.
Well, do you know what? Before we go, I just wanted to say one quick thing, and that is because we didn't mention it on the last episode. We partnered up with GamCare a little while ago. GamCare, a fantastic charity. So we are getting nothing for this other than hopefully some good karma. GamCare, a fantastic charity that help people with gambling addictions, or even family of friends of those that are suffering from gambling addictions. They provide a 24/7 helpline They can get you very fast counseling sessions for free to deal with your addiction, or if you're affected by the addiction of someone close to you, you can talk to them as well. They do phenomenal work at GamCare to try and help people that have been taken in by gambling and are in debt, are living, paycheck to paycheck, or looking at payday loans and things like that in order to try and get by because of the situation they've got themselves in with gambling. So please check out GamCare. Stu, do you have the website and the number?
Certainly do. It's gamcare.org.uk. That's gamcare.org.uk. And you can call them free on 0808 802 0133. That's 0808 802 133. All the contact details for this will be in the show notes as well. So if you feel like you want to reach out, then in the show notes of this, go and click the link over there. Also, if you don't want to ring anyone, then there's a little pop-up box when you head over to gamcare.org.uk. There'll be a little pop-up so you can just chat to someone on the live chat as well if you don't want to pick up the phone. So there's loads of ways that you can get help over there. And lastly, once again, it's gamcare.org.uk.
All right. I think we're done then.
Yeah, mate. See ya.
Bye, mate.